Hello, everyone. Welcome back for Season 2, Episode 1 of Council of the Whills. For those of you who've stuck with us for a brief hiatus, we wanted to say thank you, but we are back and we are here to review The Last Jedi. It's finally out. We've all seen it. We've all probably seen it multiple times. And yeah, my tally's 3.
I saw it for the fourth time today, but by the time this is out, I'm sure it'll be 6.
3.
So, in order to
Yeah,
keep.
but Jen, you get like bonus points because you went to the premiere.
That's true.
Okay, let's finish the intro so we can talk.
To prevent this episode from being like 6 hours long because there is so much to talk about, we are going to divide our Last Jedi review and thoughts and what we think, just everything. Like there's just so much to talk about. We're going to divide it up into separate episodes, and that way you can kind of get the gist of what we want to talk about instead of us rambling in odd like directions and going on random diatribes until yeah. So this is going to be the first part, and we're going to talk about our initial thoughts, our highs and our lows, and Jen actually gets to finally talk about her experience at the premiere. So
Yep.
let's get this party started. I'm Jane.
I'm Jen.
I'm Amber.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi. So yes,
Jedi.
um, I because I am part of the Rebel Legion in California, we got to submit an application to go to the premiere that we can then talk about after any of it, or that we got chosen, or really anything until we literally got on the red carpet. And then we had to keep quiet about what we saw for a week, which sucked balls. Um, but yeah, so I got to go. I managed to also be like right up front, so I got to talk with literally almost everybody but Laura Dern, um, the new Chewbacca, Benicio del Toro, and there was one other that I can't remember right now who just didn't come over. I think that's um, Anthony Daniels refused to sign my poster because it was too hard.
Wow.
Um, I got, like, in case anybody watched the live stream, I'm the person giving Daisy Ridley a patch, like, while Donald was getting interviewed.
Yep, I saw that. I freaked out. I was like, "That's Jen. That's Jen."
That was me. I had to, like, ask for that also in, like, the most backwards way ever. I'm like, do you have any extras? Uh, but yeah, so it was really like it was fun. It was cool. I managed to get in like super early. I talked to Mark Hamill about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh
Be-
no.
oh no, he kept talking to me about it and like told me like anecdotes, and I was like, "What is my life right now? Let me sing the song." And Lupita came over because my friend was our Chewbacca and she had a Chewie poster and Lupita needed to sign it, so she signed all of it. And it was just like amazing and incredible. There's also a picture of me up on like an article of Will John Boyega make The Last Jedi premiere? He sure did. And it's like all of us fans and we're cheering and John like just has his arms stretched out because he was the last one to go through.
Aw.
Yeah. So it's just and like Dave Filoni drew a clone trooper on my badge, and J.J. Abrams signed it because he snuck in stealthily, and Ryan Johnson finally signed my celebration badge.
Did you bring it? Is that what you were having signed?
Well, no, I had a poster, and I brought what I call my con purse, which is basically like a huge brown purse that I can pretend is a Ray bag and just bring. So I have like remnants of all these conventions in there. So I have like wristbands from D23 and trading cards from Celebration and random crap like tick band-aids from San Diego Comic-Con. So I was going to like get a chapstick out before, or like I was looking, I wasn't gonna get chapstick out. I had makeup on, but I think I like looked in there to see if I brought gum, and I was like, oh hey, my badge from Celebration that I clearly think I shoved in there during D23 to put that on my lanyard.
That's just so awesome. That's just, it's so awesome. I'm so happy you were able to go, and you were so good at not saying anything that happened during the movie.
Oh my god,
Oh yeah.
it was so hard.
You are
Like,
the real MVP.
Yes.
well, there was the good thing was like the next day I went to Disneyland and there were three of us that had seen the movie and two of us that hadn't that were hanging out, and the three of us that had seen the movie were like, so the time when the thing happened with the thing and it was between two characters and this other thing with the that also happened between these two characters, and basically I tried to describe the force bond between Leia and Kylo and the force bond between Rey and Kylo, and I was like, it's the same. There's a connection between two of them. Like it's the same character in one in each of the pairs, and they're like, and finally we got to the car where there was nobody, and I said it, and they're like, oh, yeah, was not getting that.
Oh man, I couldn't do it. You're a better person than I am. I've been like, oh my god, I saw this and I saw this, and like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
Let me tell you how I screwed up. I've been very vocal about my like wants and desires for this series, and when everybody like came to like talk to me like, Amber, did you see it? How did you like it? I consistently made the assumption they'd already seen it, and I was always like, oh yeah, it was really great. It's my favorite Star Wars movie. I can't believe I was right on so many things. And they all just have their like face fall and they're like, I haven't seen it, but now I know you're right. And I'm like, oh, you don't know what I'm right about? But I was right about a lot, so.
Well, that's the hard part. Like, it's always, I ask everybody, have you seen it? Did you see it? When did you see it? You know, that I have to do that now because I'm like, all right, did you see it? Yes, let's talk.
The day after I saw it, because I saw it the Thursday before it officially premiered, I have class on the weekend, so I was going in on Saturday, and my friend who saw it with me on Thursday night, we're trying to have a conversation about it, but there's 20 other people in class with us, and we're just like trying to talk around it, maybe like, oh, the scene that made us both giggle like schoolgirls, that scene, until finally I just said to the class, does anyone care about Star Wars spoilers? If so, I
And
won't say.
everyone does.
Actually, no one cared. People were like, "Nope,
What?
we don't care."
Oh my god, the garbage will do, I guess.
I know.
That's so weird.
So good though. So good.
When you say the scene that made you giggle like a schoolgirl, are you referring to that scene?
That scene. They say Kylo Ren is shredded and then he has an 8-pack.
And like the terrible part about that scene is that I was like, I've recently stood in front of you and you've been in front of me, and oh my god, you're still gorgeous in person. Oh my god. No, he can't put on a cowl, Ray. In fact, this is how he should fight the rest of the time. Shush your face. Shush your face.
Oh,
I'm like, shout out to the to my friend who was sitting next to me who like also got to watch me do like terrible faces throughout the entire movie and make gasping sounds and scream like yes and all this stuff, and like literally be on the edge of my seat and sometimes just be eating popcorn like the gif with the guy with the shoving his mouth like yes.
I yeah, I was pretty much, oh god, I was like doing commentary the whole time. I don't know how I didn't get kicked out of the theater. I'm the worst person. I was just so excited. My friend who went and saw, did I tell you all this story how I wasn't going to go on Thursday, but then I decided there was no way I could possibly wait. And so I bought tickets for Thursday because I live in a small town with a big theater and there were still tickets available. But my friend also bought me a ticket, and I was like, shit, now I have an extra ticket. So my friend Melissa came down and she watched it with me, and she's not near as like into all the spoilers and stuff like that. And so there were moments where I would lean over and I'd be like, watch this. Even though I didn't know if a spoiler was going to happen, I knew a spoiler was going to happen. And so the Praetorian Guard fight, I was like, oh, dude, check this out. And then she was like, how did you know that was going to happen? And I'm like, I'm awful. But when during the shirtless scene, when he was like walking up to her, I knew what was about to happen. And so I lean into her and I go, let the past die. And then Kylo goes, let the past die. And I'm like, kill it if you have to. And he goes, kill it if you have to. I'm like, it's the only way to become what you were meant to be. And he goes, and he repeats it again. And she's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I watched a trailer.
oh man. I went with my friend Martha, who was a huge Raylo, and that's kind of how we met. And so this whole time I read some of the spoilers, so I knew, I'd say about half of the big spoilers in the movie I knew. So I went with Martha, and she's big into Raylo, but she didn't want me to say anything. And so when that scene happened, and I'm like, it's canon. Nudge, guess what? It's canon. And he has a 6-pack or 8-pack, and he's shredded. And the whole time the guy next to us, we're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And he's just kind of staring at us. We're like, what? What? You guys are weird.
We're the internet.
Did you guys wolf whistle when Kylo turned around?
No.
I sure as I did. Like, my thirsty ass was there.
I can't wolf whistle. I can't whistle at all. So
I mean, I can't really either, so it was kind of a pathetic wolf whistle, like maybe like a chihuahua whistle. I didn't know what to do with my life at that point. I was like, well, this is it. I've died. I've gone to heaven. Raylo's canon. Adam Driver is shirtless. I give up.
I mean, let's be real. The only thing that hasn't happened so far is nobody's gotten a Skywalker special, which is losing a hand. But
if you notice, hey, spoiler alert, listeners, we're talking about the Last Jedi. When Snoke gets killed, the lightsaber cuts through his wrist, so his hand's just sitting there on the throne still.
Okay, fair enough.
I really feel like Ryan took the most cop-out ways of doing everything.
Well,
Like,
BB-8's the one that said I have a bad feeling about this.
yeah,
exactly. Like, he's like, I don't know where to put this. BB-8's gonna do it. And then Snoke sort of gets the Skywalker special. And then we get our shirtless Skywalker. So
I was going to say, we've objectified the Skywalker,
I mean,
and I'm okay with it.
Female gaze is wonderful.
Exactly.
oh, it was refreshing. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even normally care about that kind of stuff, and it was so refreshing.
Can I tell you, though, like, before the movie came out, we had people, and we were talking about how, in the second movie, we always have a shirtless Skywalker, and some guy was like, oh, man, I can't believe they're going to get Rey to take her top off. And I'm like, you are going to be so disappointed in this movie. There is literally nothing good about what you just said, so congratulations.
I mean, that's not the Skywalker that they talk about.
Yeah, you would think, but whatever.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Also, oh my god. Okay, wait. The only, besides the spoilers that we read for our spoiler episode, I hadn't read any spoilers. So a lot of those were not true in a way, thinking back on it.
Actually, to be fair, I think until the movie actually came out, we didn't get an accurate leak.
Yeah, we didn't, which is amazing.
Yeah, but going to then be on the red carpet, like the only thing that was kind of spoiled for us is Frank Oz walked the red carpet. So somebody was like, oh, Frank Oz, that means Yoda's in this. And we're all like, oh, because we had no idea.
That Yoda scene was kind of great, right?
It was great, but it was funny because, so when I saw it during the premiere, we all knew Yoda was coming. So it was like a cheer, but it wasn't a huge cheer. Then when I saw it on Thursday in the theater, where I also got to watch people have reactions too, that was really awesome. Everybody cheered. I was like, oh yeah, that's because we all knew. So we knew this was coming, so we didn't cheer as much, but they don't know that this is coming, so they're super excited.
It's kind of weird how that works out, because there was so much in the movie that people had like really strong reactions to. Like, was your theater like full of like intense reactions? Because mine was, and it was really interesting to see what people were like, whoa, about.
All but the third time.
All three theaters I saw, really there was no, even on the Thursday night one, there wasn't a strong reaction to much, and people were just, I could tell in the theater that people didn't have their expectations met, and that some people were not happy, at least at the 3 viewings that I went to.
Sucks.
But I loved it.
There's a lot of people that weren't happy, and I've actually seen some people be like, I am no longer going to do Star Wars costuming. That's it. I've never seen another Star Wars movie. I was like, you do you, baby girl. You do you. But I'm just like, really? You hated it that much? Okay.
I've heard that reaction. Like, I mean, not me personally. I wasn't like, yeah, I hate this fucking movie or anything like that. But like, I've seen people that are just like, I just don't know why I even watch Star Wars anymore. And I'm like, if you're really going to be ticked off that, like, you were wrong about her being a Skywalker or you don't like the Reylo aspect, then, maybe you don't need to be in the fandom. Because if you're wanting a movie that only lives up to your expectations, you're going to be disappointed forever. So maybe, yeah, it would be better if you weren't in the fandom anyway.
Exactly. Like, there's just so much of that I'm like, I'm sorry Rey's not the legacy Skywalker. I'm sorry Luke legitimately has, like, that's the thing is everybody's like, oh my god, he's a hermit, what's going on? And I'm like, everything that Luke talks about and that he does is legitimate and fits into his character. The whole, he has a moment of weakness where he's going to kill Kylo Ren. He had a moment of weakness when he was going to kill Vader. We all saw Return of the Jedi, and he's like wailing on Vader at one point, and he has to stop himself. Like, the whole temptation of the dark side is very real. So yeah, you're gonna have a moment of, I'll just kill it. That's what's going to make the universe better. And then he realizes, like, no, that's my nephew. I can't do that. I have to think of another way. But the damage is done. Like,
Exactly.
that's a lot of, I think, what this movie is about. It's about failure, but it's about choices. And goddamn, I also sent a ton of the Crossroads of Destiny gift sets to my friend like a week before the movie came out, like before the premiere even, because I was like, I have a feeling we're gonna be ending with something like this. And I couldn't explain it to her because she hasn't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm just gonna keep talking about that. I like got out of there and it's like, I knew it. Also, open bar.
It's crazy. The fan reaction and the fan division. The division, I think all of us knew that the division was going to happen because people had their expectation, people, because there was this big setup. And I think I was listening to a reviewer who said that setup and payoff is ultimately what is causing the big division, that some people are happy with the payoff and some people aren't. And I have to agree with that. I mean, I loved it. I loved the payoff. I loved that Luke, it wasn't just EU Luke. And I think that's the other cause of this huge rift is that people want the EU. They want EU Luke. And it's not that. And it goes back to a little bit of what George Lucas said, that it's patterns and it's repeating, because Yoda went through some horrible things, because prequel era Yoda's personality is completely different than original trilogy Yoda's personality. And so original trilogy Luke is going to be different from sequel trilogy Luke. They both went through some horrible shit, and that changed their personality, that changed their viewpoint. And I thought that was really beautiful the way that they did that.
I completely agree with that because I think one of the major reasons that people aren't as happy with these movies as they normally would be with Star Wars is because they did have 40 years to like get obsessed with Luke in the sense that oh, he's just the paragon of virtue. And
Where the hell is Luke ever the paragon of virtue? He fucks up so much and he's tempted so much, and like the times he tries to be stoic doesn't work out all that well. I never saw Luke as a paragon of a virtue. I also didn't really read any of the EU besides the Young Jedi books, so maybe that's where I'm like sitting here going, Luke has always been flawed.
well,
He
and
always,
that's the thing is like people had time to like build up this fanon idea of what Luke would be like in his later years, and then you had the EU books that kind of expanded on that idea, and people wanted that.
yeah, they wanted the idea that they have uh in their head. And
Yeah.
I get it. I get that's what you want, but we're all going into these movies kind of knowing that the EU no longer exists. You are never going to get Mara Jade on screen unless they do something really weird. So drop that. Not saying that she's not a cool character, not saying that you can't do anything with her. I'm saying that right now, as of in the Disney universe, there is no Mara Jade that we know of. You're not going to get Luke being the Luke of the EU. That's just not who he was. And I I think that it works better on screen to have Luke this way because it progresses the story and progresses the new characters and kind of shows you that all your childhood heroes that you grew up to find out are actually real human beings. Like, it's the moment where you realize Luke is a person. And you get that in The Force Awakens, like Han is a person. I'm sad that what we were gonna get for 9, which was gonna be Leia's movie, and you could see that we were setting that up in this one. We're not gonna get, but I think they have a lot of ways to play with that now too.
Absolutely. Um, so what did each of you like? What was your highs and lows in the movie? Because we've talked a little bit about it, but like, what did you love, and what really didn't quite work for you?
All right, I'll go. The fight against the Praetorian Guard was a high. That was amazing. Uh, I was like screaming in my seat when they turned around and like did it all. I was like, yes! Um, the Luke and Kylo end fight and the whole not being there. And the second that I saw it was the saber that had been broken, I was like, oh my god, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And just that whole scene, I loved it. I loved the end part. Um, I I liked all the Force Bond stuff. I liked the Force Bond with Leia, how they showed that. And then I guess I like those are all the highs, which is like almost all the movie. My low was kind of Canto Bite. I really and DJ as a whole, I kind of was just bored. I was like, okay, yay! I like Rose. I like her comments and I like everything. It just that whole storyline, I was just like, meh, not my favorite. I wish they had put Rose in another position because I liked her. I liked her spunk. I liked her kind of like, I might not be in the resistance as an important person, but I'm in the resistance for the right reasons, and I know how to get help, and I know how to get myself out of situations in very interesting ways. But the whole Canto Bite DJ thing, I was like, I'm bored. I
Yeah,
guess we're doing this. um, I mean, I'm glad they made me like. I was so ready for Poe Katniss as well, and I'm glad that they didn't actually go completely that way. Like, I was glad that that happened, but I'm. That's my highs and my lows.
Okay, so my highs, my lows. God, here's a little point of contention. I don't think that when they're showing Kylo and Leia, I don't think they're showing the same Force bond sort of thing as they do with Rey and Kylo. Like, you call both of them Force bonds, but I think, just as a point of contention, like, I feel like it should be something else. Because I do think that, like, because they only sense each other in proximity, I think it's more so just them sensing each other, but God, that was shot so beautifully. I just, with the fading between each face, like, that was so nice.
I saw that.
Um,
I was like, no, yes, no.
it was so good. It was
um,
how to build emotion with editing. It was so good.
Oh my God. You know, for the longest, today, the fourth time is the first time I ever realized that he shoots down the TIE fighter that shot her. I noticed that the TIE fighter got shot, but in my head I was like, that probably came from somewhere else. And then I remembered there's no, like, X-Wings out there. There's nothing that could have, like, shot that TIE fighter except Kylo Ren. And today, like, I actually watched for it and I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Take out that mother. Let's see. Other highs. I God, is it cliche to say every single Reylo scene? Like, they were all so good, and they all had like such impeccable acting and such really like nice moments that not you don't even necessarily need dialogue, but both Adam and Daisy have such incredible ways of acting with their faces. Like, you see so much emotion and so much storytelling done just through their faces that you don't even need the dialogue as much. As far as my lows go, yeah, I think the Canto Bite is kind of like, I like the storyline, but I felt like it dragged on a little bit, and everything just kind of felt, I don't know. And I understand the point of like Finn and Rose's story is that they really never should have gone on that mission. They got overconfident with the mission because there were so many things that could go wrong, and then so many things did go wrong. But at the same time, like, I get it felt like the only purpose that they were serving was to advance Poe's storyline, in the sense that they needed to go on this failed mission so Poe could understand he's not always the smartest guy in the room. And so that felt a little iffy to me, you know? And then another scene that I enjoyed a lot, but like some of the acting was a little goofy, and every time I saw it, I was like, I don't know how this feels, is when Luke is burning down, wants to go burn down the tree on Octo. Like, the way he holds his torch up is kind of awkward, and then the way he runs inside the entrance is kind of awkward. And so every time I see it, I'm just like, eh. The scene itself is really nice, and the acting besides that is really nice, but like, I didn't think the physical aspect of it was done properly. That's kind of a weird thing to say, I guess. But yeah, I just, man, I just really love every single moment of Rey and Kylo Ren's story. Like, even after they've split apart, like that ending scene where he's like bowing before her, kneeling on the ground, and she's like, oh, on the Falcon, it's just so nice. Like, I could probably write a novel, and I probably will write a novel on just how important all of those things are to the story. And I'll probably get into it more when we actually do the episode about the Force storyline, but we'll see. And then the scene that I'm still not totally sure how I feel, the dark side cave with the weird, like, I don't know, delayed line of rays. It feels like an OK Go video, and I just don't know like how I feel about it. Like, it's interesting. But it, you know, when Ryan says like, oh yeah, I had the initial cut was 3 hours and I had to cut down only the integral scenes, and then we get like 2 minutes of Rey testing the, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it matters in the storyline. I just haven't found that for me personally yet, and so every time I see it, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. But then she sees Ben Solo in her reflection, so I'm okay with that.
Well,
Yeah, I mean that part was weird, and it took me a while to be like, oh, it's a mirror, because my first thought was, no, bracer on the wrong arm. I'm like, bracers, it's the mirror. Shut up.
You cosplayers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That scene kind of still makes sense to me. It gets things moving in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm okay with it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like in the middle with it. I'm just like, I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, eh.
I don't know. Like, I liked it because it showed her she asked to see her parents, and it showed her what she's most afraid of, because in the reflection she's alone. And I think that's far more telling than if it was just a rehash of Luke in the cave on Dagobah, when, like, you know, if they just did like Rey and Kylo fighting and Rey sees she's fighting herself, people would be like, oh, it's the same thing, and it's kind of boring. But the fact that they made it a little trippy, a little like psychedelic, shroomy, a little bit, for lack of a better word, but it
Yeah.
showed, but it had the silhouette of Kylo, which on a cursory glance you're not going to see. And in the end, it's all about Rey's ultimate fear, which is of being alone and just being herself.
Do you think that her seeing like Kylo or Ben or whatever in the mirror is significant in some way? Like, do you think it's because at that point she's already like kind of chill with him, and I wonder if she recognizes that it's him.
I think I wonder if, because she was told like that's a dark place from Luke. So I don't know if she's seen what she thinks is the dark, which would be Kylo. Then it's almost like she's sad that she sees him in the dark, because she goes later and she's like, I didn't. She's sad, and she's like, the one person that she's gonna go talk to about this, not Luke, the only other person on the island, not Chewie, who she could potentially talk to, or R2, who she could potentially talk to. Why, I don't know. But she's like, let me reach out on this force bonding thing to Kylo and talk to him about this, because
Well,
clearly these are my options.
I mean, I do think it's kind of interesting that she asks to see her parents. She sees a silhouette of Kylo. They have their little hand touch thing, and then he says he has a vision and knows who her parents are, and he makes her admit who her parents are. It's like the cave is telling her, like, you know who your parents are. This is who's going to make you admit it.
Well, and that's actually a good thing that like she's known this entire time who her parents are. And that's actually one of the saddest things is she's known this entire time. So I think I almost want to say like in her head, she's like, I'm nobody, but maybe, they'll come back because clearly they cared enough about me to get me to a certain age, even though I know this is what they did. But it's like that little kid that is in the orphanage, like they're just gonna come back someday. And she's built up this whole thing of who her parents are, and Kylo Ren's the harsh dose of reality that's like, no, that's not who they are. This is who they are. But I don't care who your parents are. I care who you are. Is interesting coming from him too.
But it's so applicable coming from him because he was judged and held to the weight of his parents and to an extent his grandfather, and it's not who he is. You know what I mean? Trying to differentiate, well, before he fell, but trying to differentiate himself from, Luke and Han and Leia, the heroes of this rebellion. And oh, by the way, Darth Vader's your grandfather. You know what I mean? It's Kylo, I think Kylo projecting a little bit of his own experiences onto Rey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the cave scene. I don't know. For me, the highs and the lows. I don't know. I agree with both of you guys about Canto Bight. I think I have very mixed feelings about Canto Bight because I see the anti-war profiteering. I see the anti like military industrial complex that was very very clear, and I agree with the message it was sending. So I find myself kind of conflicted about it because I don't think the way it was portrayed was the best. You know what I mean? It felt like the story that we cared about had to be put on hold.
It felt very secondary in a way that a secondary plot shouldn't feel. And you're right, it was like anti-war profiteering, all this stuff. Let's not do this. But it's then in the very like it's a very throwaway thing. Like he sells weapons to the bad guys and he sells weapons to the good guys. All doesn't matter. I'm just like, for real? That's it? That's all that we're doing? Okay, cool.
Well, and then the worst part about it for me was and it may be they'll come back to it in 9, but like the worst part of it for me is that like DJ sat there and said like, "Hey, look, there's no such thing as good guys or bad guys in war, Like you're still making this dude rich, who cares?" And then at the very end when DJ sells him out and he's like, "Look, you kill them, they kill you." Same thing always, and Finn's like, "You're wrong," and I'm like, "You didn't learn anything. Like, what was the point of the war profiteer? Like, do you really think that that because that guy sells X-wings to you, like he's okay, even though he clearly like built Kylo Ren's TIE silencer?"
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like conflicting because I agree with the message, even if I don't agree with the application of it and the way it was presented. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree with that.
For me, I agree with both of you guys. I loved all of the interactions between Kylo and Rey. They were just so well done, and there was so much tension between Daisy and Adam, and their chemistry is just it's off the charts. It's so good, and you believe that these two characters, who by all means, at least on Rey's end, hated each other in Episode 7, have found this mutual ground. And I love how it was not in your face, and that's what I really appreciated about Ryan. The interactions between Kylo Ren and Rey specifically, they weren't in your face. It wasn't 10 minutes of dialogue about how what do I feel about this person. It was subtle but different. Like their interactions, you know what I mean? The differences in their interactions between 7 and 8 were very subtle, but they were different. Like she would have never touched hands with them, and there is so much meaning in just touching of your hand, a big kiss in front of a Roman alien Colosseum on Geonosis. I loved it. I loved the subtlety. I loved it. It was so good.
And the fact that he removes his gloved hand, like he removes his glove to touch her, is
Oh my
so.
god. It's like skin to skin.
Yes.
Well,
Well, it's
it's
like
so like intimate. Like he's really going like whole hog, making sure that he can connect to her.
you realize if he had removed the glove and the join me, she'd been like, I can you, touch you. Like in the throne room. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people were talking about how metaphorically that means, when she when they touched on Octo, he removed his glove. He was trying to touch her, to connect with her and come to a meeting point between the two of them. And so he removed his glove, and then in the throne room, he was trying to organize her destiny. Like he had his goals, and instead of trying to be like, Rey, what do you want? Let's meet in the middle. Let's figure out what we're going to do. He's like, these are my ambitions, and I want you to come with me.
Mm.
Well, what's interesting is Rey did the same thing, though. She said, "No, come on, we can still stop the resistance. We can, or still help the resistance." Thinking that
Yeah.
he had
Well,
done.
that's the problem.
Yeah, and they need to meet. And I love this. There's just so much symbolism and metaphor with the lighting, and what happens is that the lightsaber pulling apart in two, it's a symbol of that when they work together like they did against the Praetorian Guard, look at what they can do. It's perfect harmony, it's perfect balance. But when the lightsaber, when they go against each other and they fight, it's chaos. And the lightsaber is like just a direct metaphor for it. It's just so layered and so good. And in terms of artistry in film, I think that The Last Jedi is the most artistic and film that I've ever seen. It's just
Well, not to also kind of go on that with the lightsaber, because I keep thinking about this, is he like it's at the point where that's the reason why neither can pull the lightsaber to them, unlike in The Force Awakens, is because now they're both at their prime potential. Like the legacy saber doesn't know if it belongs to either one of them because they're both at the same point, whether they know it or not. They're about to make a choice, and Kylo's saying, "I'm gonna rule the galaxy as neither Sith nor Jedi because that's in the past. We cannot do that anymore." Which is, in some ways, I'm like, I agree. That's weirdly in the past. That is in the past. You need to redefine this whole Force user thing in general. You go, but he's not doing it. He's kind of doing it like a bull in a china shop. He's like, clearly that means I'm gonna rule the galaxy, and I'm like, calm down, Skywalker. Whereas Rey's like, okay, yeah, but we still can learn from the past, and we still need to know all these things because I fucking stole the books.
Yeah, A plus.
Yeah. Um, and that's not what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to rule the galaxy. The Jedi ruled the galaxy, and look how that turned out. Darth Vader ruled the galaxy, and look how that turned out. We're not meant to do this, I think is her thing. But I thought that was actually really a nice poetic moment, that all of a sudden the legacy saber doesn't know which one of them it belongs to because they're both worthy to wield it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that, because you kind of get this feeling that the saber, uh
She's meant to bring
like,
Kylo back to the light so he could wield the saber. So at the
yeah.
moment where she's brought him back, the saber's like, I don't know which one of you I belong to because he's doing his stupid thing. Um,
Well, yeah, because like for a brief moment, well, more than a brief moment, but for a while there, Ben Solo was back, and so it was kind of this thing where like the saber is like, this is who I want to go to, because I don't believe in the idea of legacy sabers, but I guess that's what we're doing now. So like that's kind of where I was at with it. But like I don't know. I just think the fact that Kylo was Ben, I don't even know what to call him anymore. Like I know that as like Reylo fans, we tend to call him Ben anyway.
but
But
but Rey calls him Ben.
yeah.
She goes Kylo, Kylo, and then she's like Ben as soon as they're face to face, and it's Ben that is, Ben, don't do this, and I'm like, being like flailing, almost flailing in my seat, not really flailing, but I'm pretty sure I was making faces. And again, thank you to the guy next to me for not like judging me at all for my faces or my sounds during this entire movie.
you're the real MVP guy.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's so funny because after we got that trailer where Rey is like, Kylo failed you, I won't. I wrote a meta where I was like, isn't it weird that she calls him Kylo? Like, that's his first name. No one else does that. everyone calls him Kylo Ren or Ren, but she calls him Kylo. And I was like, I bet she's going to be the first person to like really call him like Ben to his face after Han. And I was so right. I was like, oh my God. When she called him Ben, like I just squealed a little bit. Like I was like, it's just.
I mean, she does a progression too. When she first she's like, Kylo has fallen to the dark. She's very angry. She sees him. You're a monster. All this stuff. I do like that. You're a monster, and he's just like, and like, what? Like, yes, I am. Let's move forward. Going on. Um,
Yeah, that
but
was like peak Skywalker of him.
her name's progressively changed. Like, she finally starts to see him as a person. She's like, Kylo does this, but she's learning about Ben, and she's talking to him, and she goes to Ben. Like, it's a weird progression, but she does get to the point where she can use his first name, and it's or his given name, birth name, Skywalker name. I don't know what we're gonna call it, but not Kylo. Ben.
It's his real name. Yeah, my whole thing is like, and like I understand that I have a problem with the dichotomy sort of naming thing where you pretend that like Anakin and Vader are two different people or Ben and Kylo are two different people. But I really do think that the the person that she is force bonded to, that she was connected with, was, Ben Solo, and that's the person that she started like falling in love with in some, vague way. And so for that reason, like I think that's why she only addressed him as Ben, because that's the side she was appealing to, not Kylo Ren.
I agree.
Yes. Well, they're both being equally selfish in different ways because Kylo wants Rey to do whatever he wants to do and rule the galaxy together, and it's the same proposition that Anakin gave to Padme, and ultimately Padme.
They
Pardon me?
I was like, and the ladies reacted exactly the same way.
Exactly. But I think unlike Padme and Anakin, it's not the end of the story. You know what I mean? If it was the end of the story, it's like, okay, then I would buy that Kylo's just going to be a dick and he's going to die and they're going to end the Skywalker saga with that. But the fact that there's that final shot between them that proved that the Force bond was there before Snoke, even though Snoke wasn't manipulating it, and he absolutely was manipulating what each other saw, but the bond was there before Snoke decided to go play and puppeteer with it. And he saw her, had the chance to interfere, didn't. Like there's just so much heavy-handed symbolism with that Kylo has the light behind him, Rey has the dark behind her. It's just so many implications of that moving forward that now the poster child of the resistance and the supreme leader of the First Order have feelings for each other, and how do they reconcile that? And not only that, they have a direct Skype line to each other, and how are they going to deal with it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of exactly what I think JJ has to figure out. But I do think it's just so, when Snoke said that he is the one who bridged their minds and all that, like, I realized that he was trying to make it seem like he and Kylo Ren, like, played her, but looking at Ben's face, like, I kind of realized that he had no idea that Snoke had anything to do with any of that. So it's like, I don't know, like you just kind of feel bad for him because he sits there and oh my God, I could honestly we need to move on to a different subject, I think, because I could probably talk about the Rey and Kylo dynamic the whole time, because I listened to their playlists the other day, or yesterday, I guess, because I had a long drive. I had like a 5-hour drive. I listened to both of their playlists, and I kind of sat there and I was listening to it, and I'm like, man, I know this came out around The Force Awakens, but these songs don't fit The Force Awakens. They fit The Last Jedi. And so I have it in my head that they built their playlists based on what the entire trilogy is going to be. And in that moment, I kind of realized that, even though the details weren't figured out, JJ had to pitch a full trilogy and what the story was going to be about. And now I'm just convinced that his pitch was Reylo.
I think so too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that the major points of we start with this and we end with this, and how do we get there in the middle is where the filmmakers and the directors have their ability to tell how they got from A to B, or A to Z. But A was predetermined and Z was predetermined. It's how you get there. But
Yeah.
Yep. I absolutely think that's right, in the sense that the only thing that makes sense is that this has to be the story, because Poe had a major part in this movie and he was supposed to be dead. And so I just can't imagine. Oh my god, have you guys seen all the new Damaray shippers because of what, 2 fucking lines?
oh yeah.
Oh, they smiled at each other, so now they're clearly meant to be together. Did you not just see them having sex in that hut with their hands?
I do like that,
Like,
that scene, like at the end, like, "Hi, I'm Poe Dameron. I'm Ray." Yeah, I know. I was like, you realize they've never met. You had to do the thing because you realize they've never met.
That's what I think it
well,
is.
they met in the novelization, right? In the Force Awakens
Yes,
novelization.
they
Yeah,
did.
I think that's all they were doing, is just correcting that error.
That way people can't go, but they never met. It's not canon. There's a contradiction. So Ryan's like, fine. Here's Poe and here's Ray. They met. Happy. And poor Pablo going,
Yeah,
but the books are canon, so which one's actually canon?
so irritating. But anyway, where was I? I don't remember. Oh, storyline. So yeah, Poe had such a huge influence on this story, and which makes me believe that, obviously this story had to be written, to go with the fact that Poe survives now, but Poe wouldn't have played a major role in the pitch because he was written in the script to die originally. And JJ would have had to pitch a full trilogy. They're not just going to say, yeah, let's do a trilogy based on one movie. It's just not how it works. You have to, that's why he's the executive producer on this one, because the initial what do you call it? The initial idea for it was his, and I absolutely think that his pitch was probably, hey, Han and Leia have a son. He falls to the dark side because of Luke, and there's this girl, and she's a force sensitive, and she brings him back. She inspires him back to the light, and that's basically the crux of the story. And we get to explore the balance in the force with the two of them, and we actually get to see a love story between force users, because we've never gotten that before.
Not only that, you have the whole idea of redemption with that just because you make really crappy decisions doesn't mean it determines who you are. You know what I mean? Because before that, he was a stormtrooper. And you can choose your destiny. You can choose what you want to be. It isn't this predetermined plan, for lack of a better word. And the whole idea of taking the legacy characters and passing on the torch, and I think that's why people are so pissed off, because this movie is far more about Kylo, Rey, and the continuation of the Force than about how badass EU Luke is.
Yep.
Exactly.
One thing I really enjoyed about this movie is that it really set up the changing of the guard in a way, because after Han died, Finn kind of took over that role of the reluctant hero who's not really super interested in doing all this, but oh well, he's got something to fight for, so now he's doing this, I guess. And then, the other characters like Rey and Kylo and Poe, they were allegories, but they weren't really filling that role just yet. But with Luke gone, Rey is now Luke, for sure. And it's interesting because Kylo is now kind of filling this Palpatine Vader hybrid sort of role. And I think that's interesting because we haven't seen someone actually kill their master and take over. We got the story of it with Sidious and Plagueis, but we didn't really get to actually see what happens in that. So, Kylo went from a knockoff Vader to kind of a badass Palpatine. I'm just really curious as to how effective a Supreme Leader he's going to be, because he told all the TIE fighters to go after the Millennium Falcon, and now the TIE fighters weren't attacking the skim speeders, which meant that they had a better chance of getting to the cannon. So I feel like he's like going to let a lot of his personal biases affect his supreme leadership. Like, you can already see that Hux is like plotting against him in that shot right before Kylo Ren goes into the room to pick up the dice. So,
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the dice was actually kind of a eh. It took me out of the movie because as soon as I saw the dice, there was a deleted scene from The Force Awakens. Like, they should have left that in. They should have left that in. Because there's a deleted scene in The Force Awakens where Han goes onto the Falcon, and you see a bit of it in the final cut, but you don't see the full shot, where Han pulls his dice out of his pocket and hangs it on the rear view mirror, for lack of a better word, on the Millennium Falcon. And it was cut from the final version. And I think if they had left that in, it would have been an extra, like, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, but it would have given more context to what's this pair of golden dice? Why do I care? What is this? Why did this appear out of nowhere?
I think what it is, and I think this is the problem of having multiple directors. JJ cut that scene out, but Ryan had already framed his movie around that moment. And it's really hard to be like, hey, JJ, my buddy, my pal, can you just leave that in? It's integral. Like, he had R2 show up specifically so he could have that Leia moment instead, where he gets Luke to train Rey by showing the initial "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi" sort of thing. I just think that perhaps, they could have made it a little more. I think they could have communicated more. I mean, I'm sure they communicated a lot, to be honest, because I think a lot of the plot threads in this movie kind of felt natural in a lot of ways. I don't know, man. It's weird because I think, when you look at a Star Wars movie, like in the original trilogy, you had 2 years pass, 3 years pass between each movie, and so it's taken place over the span of 5 years. And then in the prequels, you have like a 10-year jump and then a 3-year jump. And then this one, we've got 5 hours of movie that have taken place over the course of what, a week, two?
At most, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my God, people are talking mad shit on The Last Jedi. They say that it feels more final than a middle act.
Oh,
And
please.
that's not good for episode 9 because uh,
Well,
um,
there's a lot of people that are talking shit on The Last Jedi. And I mean, I get it. People don't want to like. I think there's also some of it is fans, and I could be wrong. And but this could be something. There's are fans that are like, well, I didn't. The Force Awakens was too much like A New Hope, and it's the first one without George Lucas, so I guess I'm gonna give it a go. But it's so much like A New Hope that I don't know how this is gonna be, so I'm putting all my expectations in The Last Jedi, and I want it to not be like Empire. And now it's not like Empire at all in ways. You still get your Yoda scene, but they're like, I don't like it because it's not enough like the other movies, and it doesn't feel like a George Lucas Star Wars and all this other stuff. And I just want to, I like, I like the original trilogy, and I like parts of the prequels, and I like the sequel trilogy, and they're all different things to me. And I think that's what some Star Wars fans need to see, because also you have like the TV shows that are different things, and you have the books that are different things. So you can like all of them, and you can like the entire galaxy of Star Wars, but you can like it not as having to be almost like a purist about it, because that's the greatest thing about Star Wars. It's this universe that George Lucas has created, and look at how many other people get to actually professionally play in it.
No, I agree. I agree so much with what you have to say. Like, it's generational. I think people need to realize that it's generational. And back when Empire came out, um, that people didn't really believe that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and that people just didn't believe it and they didn't accept it and they thought it was horrible. And I think we're kind of and Empire is now considered the best Star Wars movie ever made by most people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I think we're kind of experiencing that now. And I think a couple years out, especially after 9 has come out, it will contextualize everything in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who pretty much messaged me like the second they saw the movie and they're like, "Amber, I didn't really like this movie. Why did you like this movie so much? It felt really disjointed. What does this have to do with anything?" And I'm just like, you're judging the middle movie of a trilogy without seeing the end of the trilogy. Like, of course it's going to be hard for you to see what the point of some of the storylines are. They don't have the end game. Like, Ryan was clearly setting up various plots that are going to have to be resolved in 9. So yeah, you may not understand where they're going at that moment, but that's because you've got 2 years to know where they end. So it's just weird for me to like hear people say like, "Oh, well, this doesn't make sense and it doesn't go anywhere." Well, yeah, dude, we've still got another 2.5 hours of plot threads to be resolved. What was the point of the Force? What was the point of them talking in the Force? Like, that's kind of dumb. And I'm like, I don't think that's as dumb as you think it's going to be.
I mean, it totally humanized the mortal, air quote, mortal enemies of the First Order and the Resistance.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, and I don't even understand that criticism because I think it was pretty apparent, um, the importance of them speaking in the Force, and I don't know, people are just like, I can't believe we wasted a whole movie on a failed plan and humanizing Kylo Ren just for him to become irredeemably evil, and I'm like, did we? Did we waste a movie on humanizing him just so he could become irredeemably evil, or are we maybe, just maybe, seeing those sparks of humanity in someone you thought wasn't redeemable, and now you're going to see that even more?
I mean, everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's so irredeemable," and all this stuff. I'm like, he's literally crouching on the floor, holding the dice that you know were his father's, trying to hold on to a piece of the past and looking like a sad kicked puppy. Very evil supreme ruler Kylo Ren.
Oh yeah, the supreme leader of the First Order bowing to a girl from nowhere who's nothing. That's yeah, he's super evil.
So evil. But he makes horrible decisions. And I love Kylo, but part of the reason I love him so much is because he makes the worst decisions ever. It's like, fire everything on that man! Like, we're gonna take all of our manpower and concentrate it onto one man that if you're that worried about it, you would just ignore that, have them blow the base up, and you just go deal with Luke. That way that there's no exit, there's no distraction, there's no exit, there's no like egress, entrance, like there's none of it. He makes the worst decisions because he's so irrationally emotional, and I love him for it. Yeah.
I want to ask a question real quick, and I'm sure we'll probably get more in depth into it later, but do we have a real reason for him to be that angry at Luke besides Luke trying to kill him? Or him thinking that Luke was trying to kill him? Like, is his rage at Luke specific, like, is that related to Snoke wanting to snuff out the Jedi? Or is that related to Kylo having to give up everything in his life because he was afraid of Luke?
I I have a feeling there's stuff that we don't know, and probably stuff that Snoke was telling Ben Kylo before all this. Like, imagine it's this culmination of, your uncle really hates you. He just wishes that you would die because he's afraid of your power and all this stuff. And, Ben doesn't see that day to day. He sees his uncle who loves him and all this stuff. But then waking up to him, like, standing over you with a lightsaber, like, he's probably angry about that. And there's brainwashing that we don't know. So my guess is it's also a lot of he's it's clear in his head he's decided that neither Sith nor Jedi should rule the galaxy. It should be what he deems to be a Force user. So he's now angry at Luke because Luke's clinging to the Jedi and doesn't want to change anything. And maybe he had issues with it when he was a student too. He's like, some of this is bullshit. And Luke is like, no, no, this is the ways of the Jedi, and clearly this is all knowing. And Ben's like, yeah, about that. No. Um, and then you have Snoke telling him he has all this other stuff, and then he being like, about some of that stuff, also no.
But I will say that you also have everything that happened in Bloodline, that his whole family lied to him, and he found out on the HoloNet news.
Oh yeah.
I'm really curious as to where that revelation is in relation to him leaving. Like, do you think that perhaps, like, he got the revelation and he was like, okay, my family lied to me, that's great. And then, after that, like, Snoke started being like, well, you know, you're Vader's grandson and you've got his great bloodline and blah, blah, blah. And that's when he really started, like, turning it up. And that's why Luke thought Snoke had turned his heart already.
Oh, what if it was, here's another one. It was almost around like the same week or day that Ben finds out about Vader being his grandfather. And that's
Oh,
the
God.
same time that, you know, the Luke thing happens. And he's just like, clearly I could trust no one in my family because mom lied to me. Everybody lied to me about who my family is. And now that the truth is out, he's going to kill me? Like, what the fuck, family?
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that would be terrifying if, like, I can't even imagine what I would do if I woke up and someone that I thought cared about me was standing over me about to kill me.
And be like, well, fuck all y'all, I'm out.
Also, Knights of Ren Revelation, that was pretty sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think generally, you know, all of us have really positive feelings for The Last Jedi, and I think at some point we'll probably have to go through and kind of talk of all the misconceptions I think people are having with the movie. I had an argument with my coworker today because he was upset about the fuel being a main plot line. He's like, they've never had to worry about fuel before. And I'm like, because that wasn't the plot. Like,
Everyone,
whatever.
the whole point of the middle movie in the trilogy is that every character is at their lowest point. That's the whole point. All of your main characters, including Kylo, as much as people hate him, he is a main character. They are all going to be at their lowest point. The Resistance is at their lowest point. Rey is at her lowest point. Luke is at his lowest point. Leia is at her lowest point. And so is Poe, and so is Ben. And it's what they do with that that's going to determine the third movie, or the third act of a trilogy.
Yep.
So I think,
That being said, I think that we should probably go ahead and wrap this up. Do we want to talk a little bit of movie news real quick?
yeah, it was just announced that JJ pitched it this morning or yesterday morning. The timing's a little weird.
The 15th. He pitched it the 15th.
Pitch it the 15th, gotcha. The story for episode 9 and the production title was officially released as Black Diamond.
I want to say they announced that JJ announced that the time jump is 6 months.
That's it?
Yeah.
I figured it'd be at least a year because it needs a time jump. I don't normally say that, but it needs a time jump. There needs to be breathing
No,
room.
I agree. I just saw on Tumblr that someone said that it was not at 6 months. And I personally think we need like a solid like 2 years. Because if you look, I don't know if you've seen any of the spoilers from the Battlefront 2 DLC storyline, but it basically shows that the First Order has literally taken over the galaxy. They have a huge, huge fleet, and it is just all over the galaxy. And so I think if we're going to see them win the war, it's going to be really hard to show that in only 6 months. Like, I had an idea, because I've decided that I'm writing an episode 9 fan fiction because I have too many ideas and I'm not going to let those go. And I have 2 years to write it. So, you know, here, let's do this. Let's get people addicted to my headcanons and then completely disappoint them. But I had this idea. We finally get the Stormtrooper Rebellion where Finn goes and he shows the other Stormtroopers how unimportant they really are to the First Order, and then the Stormtroopers rebel. And that's what takes down the First Order. Like, it's an allegory of, you know, the common man taking over the 1%ers and shit like that.
Agreed. Well, actually, I thought that that's what they were going to do in The Last Jedi, is that Finn was going to go back and that's how he got caught until like the stuff got out and stuff leaked and all that crap. But that's what I initially thought was going to happen in 8, was that Finn was going to go back and basically sow the seeds of doubt in the stormtroopers, because without the stormtroopers, they're nothing.
Exactly.
God damn it, I can't find this information anywhere.
But allegedly, the time jump between 8 and 9 is going to be 6 months.
I saw that on Tumblr. I don't know what it actually is or if that comes from a real thing because I can't find that information. But we'll see what's up with that. One thing I do want to note is that a lot of people have been putting a lot of speculation onto the title, onto the working title of Black Diamond.
Wasn't Last Jedi Space Bear?
Yes.
Yeah, Last Jedi was Space Bear.
Solo.
Rogue One was like Los Alamos or something. Solo was Red Cup.
Which that makes sense.
And The Force Awakens was Foodles. But yeah, people have been putting a lot of emphasis on the title because they think that it may have some sort of connection to the story, kind of like how Space Bear does in some way. But yeah, J.J. Abrams has a habit of making his working title related to the production company's name. Foodles was the production company that he was working with for The Force Awakens. For Episode 9, the production company he's working with is called like Carbonado or something like that, which is the more scientific name for what people call a black diamond. So maybe it has plot significance, maybe it doesn't. I don't want people to get too invested in the idea of Kylo proposing to Rey with a black diamond when it could likely just be because of the production company.
I mean, it's J.J. Wrath of Khan Abrams. I don't really trust much of what he says when it comes to any of the movies he's working on.
Yeah, remember when he said he knew how Lost was going to end? I'm sure he knew how it was going to end. I'm sure he just didn't know how he was going to get there. But yeah, that's just a little bit of news. I don't know if this podcast is ever really going to become a Star Wars spinoff podcast. I mean, I guess once Episode 9 is out, we will kind of be forced to be. But at this point, I really don't know like how much we're going to talk about the Han Solo movie. Other than, maybe we're leading up to it, and let's talk about how we felt about it.
I'm still surprised there wasn't a trailer with Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Right? Why wasn't there?
Because
because
in the coming weeks they're going to be like, just kidding, Solo's coming out in December. Okay, thanks, bye.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm fine with that because at least I can pretend that I'm looking forward to Solo. I mean, I am, but like I can pretend I'm as stoked as I am on the actual trilogies. And then I can just count down to that instead of having my countdown set for 723 days.
Hey, I think Solo's going to be a stinker, so I'm kind of... I want it to be good.
Not getting invested.
Yeah, I want it to be good, and I'm going to go into it with a completely open mind, but I think it's going to be a stinker.
I mean, sometimes they are, and you just kind of gotta go with that. But yeah, I'm really excited for our like in-depth discussion on all things The Last Jedi over the next couple episodes. I always love analyzing stuff with you ladies because y'all are brilliant and it's fun.
Well, it's such good discussion, So everyone, that's pretty much everything we have time to say. Not everything we have to say, but everything we have time to say for our first installment of our Last Jedi review series. In future installations, we're going to talk more about the Resistance plotline, a bit more of our criticisms. If you liked our episode, please like us and give us a thumbs up on YouTube or on SoundCloud, or subscribe to us. If you want to contact us, we have a Gmail account. It's councilofthewills@gmail.com. Let's see. We're also on Tumblr at councilofthewills.tumblr.com. And coming soon, we will be coming to iTunes, Spotify, and Android. And yeah, thank you.
Every single arena we can.
Yes. to make it easy for everyone to listen to, because not everyone has an iPhone, not everyone has an Android, not everyone can sit down at their computer for 2 hours. So once again, everyone, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful Star Wars day, and we will see you soon.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.